The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor.
What's up, what's up, what's up?
Rhett Creighton, shitcointologist.
Hi, everybody.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network, reminding you to give us a thumbs up and a share and to subscribe down below. Moving on to issue 1, Elon and Jack. Two major Silicon Valley notables weighed in on Bitcoin again this week, with Tesla's Elon Musk and Twitter's Jack Dorsey coming out in favor of the fledgling cryptocurrency. While Jack does seem to back his words up with actions, Square's Cash App only takes Bitcoin. Elon and Tesla have a more wait-and-see approach, not even accepting Bitcoin directly for their fancy electric cars. Dan Eve, I ask you, which is more important, Elon's endorsement, Jack's endorsement, or neither?
Well, I think if you think about pure reach, Twitter's got like hundreds of millions of followers. So if Jack was to do something cool, I mean, he's already held the lightning torch. Imagine if he did something like integrate Lightning into Twitter somehow. You know, he's even kind of spoken about. I'm sure he's mentioned or talked about the tipping bot. So I think that's really cool. That's good news that both of them are becoming kind of prominent speakers, not backing it completely. I think Elon Musk said he's bagging 0.25 Bitcoin at the moment. So he could probably be, you know, stepping up his game a bit and saying, you know, he's dipping his toes into the water a bit more. But still the people, you know, the influence that they have, especially in the tech industry, and of course, you know, crypto is but Bitcoin is technology, so them it being in that position of respect from other people and knowing about technology as well as the reach of their different applications. So with Twitter, you've also got the, you know, Jack's got Square app as well. So I think I think it's great that they're getting involved. So would like to see Elon Musk get the lightning torch though. So there's not many hops to go there, I think.
Rhett Creighton.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, so first of all, the fact that we see Elon Musk and Jack are promoting Bitcoin now. It means that, look, these guys are both billionaires. They both know that Bitcoin is the next money. And they're both very, very specifically telling everyone now, like, hey, like, get in on Bitcoin, right? And it's kind of crazy because anyone who's in crypto, they know, like, this is when you buy Bitcoin, right? When it's been beaten down 80% and you want to buy. But humans are just like irrational and they're just sad. They're like, oh, I see it going down, and so they don't want to buy it right now. But I mean, you know, so okay, so Elon knows this and he's trying to hint to people that follow him, like, hey guys, look, if you're my follower, I need to give you a hint. Okay. Now, what Jack is in control of, I think it's not a mistake, the fact that Donald Trump used Twitter really well. And now we see AOC, she's the youngest person ever in Congress. She uses Twitter and social media really well, too. And I strongly believe that basically these social media platforms are going to take over all of our political systems. We're going to see people who can use these systems really well start to become extremely influential. And we even see that with crypto politics, right? We have politics, all kinds of politics. We argue for 2 years whether block size should be 1 megabyte or 2 megabytes within Bitcoin. And then we have all kinds of politics cross-chain, right? So in the crypto community, we know very well that Twitter is the place for political discourse. And we're gonna start seeing that also go into the government's discourse and discussion, and to help decide who gets elected, right? Now, Jack knows this, okay? He understands exactly how powerful Twitter is and exactly how it's gonna shape all politics in the world and how we choose our money, right? So he's been hinting for, months now. Like his pinned tweet was the Bitcoin white paper. Like he's like slamming this. He's trying to hit people over the head with this. He's like, how can I be more obvious, right? If you're like, but the general population now, like, they still don't understand. I have all these like well-respected friends and people, and I'm trying to tell them, like, dude, you need to get on Twitter. You know, if you want to be influential in the future, you want to get into politics, like you need to get on the Twitter, and there's still just so many people who don't get it. So it's really a testament to how early, like we all are really, really early on this, right? Because there's trillions of dollars that are assets under management at these huge financial corporations. And Bitcoin now, I mean, you know, depending on how you want to figure out your market cap, like 50, 60 billion or whatever, it's just incredibly small. So to me, like from a purely, you know, transformational, societal transformational perspective, I think Jack's endorsement is huge. And he actually, I believe he's definitely been either tipping people with lightning now or accepting them. And so what that signals to all of us, right, is that that's okay for all of us to do. You can't get banned from Twitter for tipping people lightning Bitcoin because the CEO of Twitter is doing it, right? And we all know, like, that is one of the fastest, most effective ways to incentivize adoption. So, like, it's crazy. I'm so bullish on crypto right now and Bitcoin, it's just crazy.
Well, I like Rhett's idea about the politics, but I want to push back on that. I'm hoping that the Trump thing is a road bump. It's something that we go over and we get past, and that this Twitter name calling noise echo chamber that he's created maybe could be something we grow out of. I see he used Twitter, but uses it in a different way than Trump. I'm just not sure about. Go ahead, Rhett. You were going to say something.
Well, I just disagree, right? I think a lot of us, we got exhausted by the last election cycle. And everybody, you know, there was a lot of hate going around, and everybody was hoping, like, oh my God, when is this going to come to an end, right? And the reality is, there's no way we're going back to what life was like before this. Now, that being said, that, like, Donald Trump uses Twitter like a bully, okay? That doesn't mean you have to be an asshole and a bully, right? Because what AOC does, Andrea, I can't say her name, Andrea, or, you know, the really famous
Ocasio-Cortez, yeah.
Ocasio-Cortez, right? She is authentic, right? And she shows people, she's like, look, I had a hard day at work as a congressperson. I came home and I ate some Ben & Jerry's ice cream, right? And she is able to just like reach out to people and deliver an authentic message so much more effectively than anyone else. And she's actually been giving these, so she's giving lessons now to other Congress people where she has to explain to them. She's like, no, you don't go on Twitter and sound like a founding father if you're a mom. If you're a mom, you go on and you sound like a mom, right? And so, like, she had to teach that to them because, you know, like, no offense to like Hillary Clinton or whatever, but she was trying to use Twitter in a way that I didn't feel very authentic, really cares about. Like, I think she would have reached a lot more people. And I don't think we're going back. Like, that's the future, is that there are going to be like more people on these platforms that you can reach out and have a much closer connection with. And it's going to be more decentralized in that way. And I think that's just the future, right? We're not going to go back to before. Now, hopefully we start electing people who aren't bullies, right? Like, I'm on that side. I hope that we all realize, like, okay, well, you can be nice in the world, you can be a bully, and we know what that is, and we don't need to elect bullies. Anyway.
And I would even push back on the chat here. You have to be able to separate someone's political views from how they use the platform. Even if you disagree with AOC, you have to see the way she's being authentic and the way that she's pushing her true self as this, I don't know, 23-year-old barista that's been elevated to Congress. That's who she is. She's not being fake about it. They want her to come in as this big socialist leader and have all these highfalutin ideas or whatever. She seems very much more grounded. And part of this is because of the way she's able to present herself on social media. That's a skill she has. Even if someone you disagreed with had it, you have to still see it as a skill. Going back to my answer, I would go with neither. Although I love that the media is writing articles and they're all excited that Elon and Jack are both into it and they both have great careers as entrepreneurs, I don't think we need them. Once again, I'm rejecting the hero theory of history. It was not simply Martin Luther King. It was not simply Napoleon. It was all these other people behind them. It wasn't just George Washington. It was all the people behind them. And it's not too late to give up on that in Bitcoin. It's still the individual people that convince people that are spreading the word. It's great to have Elon. It's great to have Jack. But I'd rather have 10,000 normal people out there spreading the word because they believe in Bitcoin than just sticking with these 2 billionaires. Let's go to Crypto Raptor for the exit question. Force prediction. Which is the most successful 5 years from now? Tesla, Twitter, or Square?
Oh, well, yeah, that's a difficult one. Because 5 years time, I can see all three of those advancing pretty darn far. So if you want a quick question, I think Twitter, and I think the reason is because I think they're only just kind of starting out as a company before really branching out into all the areas that they can do, like Facebook have done, for example. And I think that there's a lot of ways you could take advantage of Twitter, and that businesses could be using it a lot more to promote their brands and support their brands, like some of the really good ones that some really good ones, the way they manage their public brand. So I actually think Twitter, I think you could squeeze more out of it.
Rhett Creighton.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to go with Twitter also. I mean, it's definitely, you can't really predict the future, right? I mean, I view Tesla basically as a toy company. And I think that's kind of how Elon even views it that way. He talks about basically he doesn't build a car, he builds sort of like the most fun you can have for $100,000, right? And I'm really bullish on flying cars, the prospect of flying cars. My friend Kenny works on them in the Bay Area for a company called Kitty Hawk. They're actually really good. And Puerto Rico, where I live now, the island's about 200 miles wide. He says he'll be able to build them to fly across the island. So that'll be nice because we'll be able to go from the East Coast to the West Coast and avoid all the traffic and the potholes, which, by the way, I love that there's tons of potholes everyone complains about in Puerto Rico. And I love the potholes because it means the government's not spending money on them. And it means that we just get that much closer to people demanding flying cars. Square is a little bit unpredictable because, like, if they're integrating Bitcoin now, right, either they could become worth zero because you don't really need them, or they could just become like, the next like Fidelity of Bitcoin or something like that in the future, right? So they could be potentially really huge and much huger than Twitter. I don't know if that's a word. But Twitter, I'm just seeing something now with Twitter. I very strongly believe that what we're able to do now with these platforms like Twitter and Instagram are build systems of coordination and incentives for socialization of humans in a way that capitalism did that before we had the internet and computers, and with socialism did that, and we had these structures. But we can actually turn these virtual social networks into coordinated structures that do actually influence and can direct human behavior very well. So I see a very strong chance Twitter could become extremely powerful, almost as powerful as some of the largest countries today.
Well, I hope that happens, Rhett, and I hope it happens for a positive way. Too many times we see people controlling other people on the internet or through China's Facebook clone in a negative way. You spit on the sidewalk, you get punished. You are friends with someone who spits on the sidewalk, you get punished, so on and so forth. So it would be nice to see a more positive aspect, something from Twitter, maybe teaching people civics, or something like in the Diamond Age with the Young Ladies Illustrated Primer. Definitely say check that book out, Neil Stephenson, early. But I would agree with you on Tesla. I want to go with Tesla. I think they're more exciting. I like the rockets. I like the solar panels and the spaceships. But you guys are really right. They're more of a demonstration company. The success of Tesla is when Ford goes all electric. The success of Tesla is when everyone switches to solar panels. It doesn't necessarily matter if they're Tesla solar panels or a Tesla car. It's the success of those products. So I'm going to go with Square. I'm going to say they sneak up on everybody. They get these payments set. They use Bitcoin or maybe even Lightning Network as the rail, so they don't have to build any of the fancy parts. And really, they just have to build a really good 2FA system to keep you from losing access to your account. And they sneak up on everybody. PayPal, Venmo, all of them down to Square. It's unlikely, but I like the drama of the prediction. Let's move on to issue 2, Samsung S10. Samsung announced their latest phone this week, the Galaxy S10, as well as including a bigger and better screen, a new camera, and all the usual bells and whistles. The S10 actually included a legitimately new feature, the blockchain key store. The blockchain key store will allow users to securely store their private keys in a hardware wallet, isolated from the rest of the system. Rhett Creighton, could this new feature put safe and secure crypto into the hands of millions of end users? Is Bitcoin cryptocurrency going mainstream?
Yeah, this is huge. This is really exciting to me because, basically, every bull market cycle, right? We have to reach out into a new group of users. And there's millions and millions of young people on the internet, on these social networks that just have never used crypto, right? We know all these people now that basically they've been through a bull and a bear cycle. A lot of them got burned. A lot of them are never going to touch Bitcoin again. And a lot of them are like really salty, right? And this is really just the growth trajectory of Bitcoin. I've seen it since 2011. You get people, they buy Bitcoin at $8, it goes up to 30, then it crashes down to 2. They say Bitcoin's a Ponzi, they sell out, they're never coming back, right? And they're gone. But then in the next bull cycle, you just reach out to a whole new group of people. And there's these millions of young people, they actually use Android phones. Android's more popular. And and they're in Puerto Rico, they're asking me how to use crypto. Like there are a lot of people they have never had a Bitcoin, right? And so I think this is huge. Like this is just another way of reaching out to a bigger audience, and it's exactly what we all need to be doing in crypto. If you're holding Bitcoin and you believe in its growth and you want to help basically promote that with the people who are going to be in the next bull run for Bitcoin. It's just a great way to help people give them access to a Bitcoin wallet.
I think Tom's had some.
All right,
you back, Tom?
I'm back. Let's go to Dan. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, so well, I have the I've actually got the S9, and I switched over to Android probably around about I think it was the iPhone 5 when it switched to the iPhone 5, because I just wanted something that was a bit bigger, and iPhone didn't go to that big screen. And I think it's really good. I mean, I've been using Nox for a while. They're actually, their encryption software. I think the idea of this key store is pretty good. There was a video on the advert that says like touch blockchain, or I think it's touch blockchain. It's got a big button that you can press to activate your S10 blockchain. Joseph Young mentioned about the fact that this could pave the way for, say, Apple as well following suit. I mean, Samsung is just one company, of course. I think the stats in the article said that there's 70 million units in Q4 alone for Samsung. And now the S10 obviously is not going to be as much as that, but as a kind of conservative estimate, they said 25 million over the next year. So that's a big fat new user base to kind of introduce to the term blockchain. And as the new features come out regarding that, hopefully, the people that were interested before, and like Rhett's saying about, these new people being interested, and these are the new ones I think that we're going to be able to reach a lot better with these new features with apps as well, and the ability to transact faster. And I think that Lightning's usability is actually kind of, and although people are pissed off about the fact that it's a custodial service, but it's like it's having a change pot effectively. So that's been shown to be a kind of fun and cool way of using crypto. So adding the ability to store your details on your phone and be a bit more safe and secure with that. I know people still have a problem. I still think it's great that it's opening up the floodgates to a huge number of more people. And I think that other makers like Huawei and Sony will probably follow suit, I imagine.
I'm just excited that we made it this long. I can remember back to when Apple banned all the Bitcoin wallets from their app store. And now Samsung is putting a special chip onto their phone to enable crypto wallets. And yes, I'm hearing the people in the chat. It's not as good as a Trezor or a cold storage device. It's not quite at that level, but it is a separate chip. They are trying. As far as I understand, it would be very difficult for, say, another app like my pinball app to break in the secure enclave that's being used by my crypto wallet. Now, it might not be impossible. Certainly something could happen, something could go wrong, and it could sneak in. But they're trying, and they're trying at the hardware level. So I think it's very exciting. I think Samsung is taking a bit of a risk here. They're putting in a feature that people might not use. This might be abandoned in future phones if it doesn't work. Remember, that costs money to put more chips on the phone, but we're going to have to see how it goes. I agree with Rhett. I'm excited. I think it's going to bring new people to crypto, and people who haven't tried it yet, they'll be like, well, I got this feature on my phone. The last time I tried out a feature like this, I got to listen to music. It worked out really good. Maybe this time I put some money on my phone. Hey, all right. So let's move to the exit question. Yes or no? Will you buy the new Samsung phone? Rhett Creighton.
Yeah, I'll probably buy it. And, definitely, it's just definitely good to have, anyway, yeah, try these things out and be on top of things. And, yep, I'll find a use for it.
All right, Dan Eve, will you buy it?
Yeah, I've got an free upgrade coming soon. So, literally, I think it's March 16th. So it's just in time. And I think I'm going to have to check out the first phone with, blockchain enabled, apparently, and test the little bad boy out, or bad girl, whichever one.
Well, I hate to break with the panel here, but I will not buy it. If they sent me one for free, I would try it out. I'm very interested in the folding phone. That sounds great. But generally, I'm locked into iOS. I started buying apps. Gosh, it's going to be 10 years ago now. So I have 10 years worth of apps, 10 years worth of pinball tables, and I'm not leaving to the Android platform. Also, I like the way iOS feels and the way macOS feels in general. I feel like I'm paying people to solve problems for me. Whereas on Android or Windows, I feel like I'm solving those problems myself. And I'd rather someone else run the task manager for me. I don't need to be involved at that level anymore. Moving on. Did you know the World Crypto Network has an audio podcast? That's right. You can subscribe on iTunes today. Get all the shows in audio format on the World Crypto Network audio podcast. Moving on to issue 3, Quadriga QX. Well, we currently have no new information, and this is certainly all speculation. Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong weighed in on the Quadriga QX scandal, and according to his analysis, it seems unlikely that the funds were lost with the death of the CEO. Brian's research shows that the exchange likely ran into trouble long before that and were operating with a fractional reserve, only seizing on the opportunity to blame it all on the founder after his untimely death. Rhett Creighton, your thoughts on this new Quadriga speculation?
So I think anyone who's been following this, this is pretty much, we all knew that this is likely the case at this point, but this is really just someone who has a really strong reputation, is running the largest, crypto exchange, or so, I don't know whatever Coinbase is, but a huge reputable, licensed, regulated service within the US, and he's sticking himself out there and telling everyone like, this smells really fishy. So the fact that he's willing to do that, I mean, look, when I found out about this, it was just like, okay, $100 million hacked or whatever. That's just another day in crypto. So I'm not following the story like super closely. I wasn't affected, but I'm sorry to anyone that was affected. But yeah, I mean, the fact that he's putting himself out there kind of tells us more about what we think happened.
Now, I hate to say it, but whenever any of these things happen, I always assume it's an inside job. I always assume that maybe somebody somewhere needed to take the money. This one is no different. When I saw that interview with the founder, where he went on a YouTube, a podcast somewhere, and he's talking about cold storage and he's talking about how important it is, and he's talking about how he separates the stuff, he really seemed to understand it in a way where he was basically saying, we're not going to get Mount Goxed. And I believe him from that video. I don't believe him from him being dead and them losing the cold storage or them sending it to the wrong account. None of that makes any sense if you really think about it. So while I don't have any new information, and certainly we're just speculating here, it does look very questionable. Brian's evidence did seem pretty strong that they had earlier problems, tried to operate on a fractional reserve, and then took advantage of this problem at the end to blame it all on. Dan, Eve, your thoughts on the QuadrigaQX collapse?
Yeah, so it seemed like I think Nick Coates, if that's the Cote, if you how you spell it, he said that he'd been in contact with Dwayne from the exchange, and that their banking problem started, a lot earlier than everyone else thought, around about the spring of 17. And this is just another one of these issues that kind of really shows how. It's funny how one of the biggest things that my go-tos about the existing financial system and how fucked it, how fudged it is that there's fractional reserve lending. I just hate this idea that you can, they don't even need to have remotely enough money to cover you. And the sad thing is that with exchanges, they can do that. They can literally just use the floating crypto that's passing, through deposits and withdrawals, which is actually good from a security perspective. But if they've not got the crypto in cold storage and they've turfed it out, then obviously that's really bad. And I think that this is going to be another one of the kind of kick up the arses to exchanges, and that hopefully they'll become a lot more transparent. They'll be divulging, maybe there'll be a more kind of good, thorough audit structure so that the exchange can prove their reserves, prove their security process. Kind of like how Coinbase have gone and been, what's the word? They've been open about how they use their electromagnetic tents and stuff like that. And I think that's responsible. I mean, you can hate on Coinbase as much as you want, but they're doing it responsibly, and they haven't, fucked up too bad. I don't know if they fucked up for now. So, they're providing a service and they're trying to be transparent and trying to be a good company about it. So I think there is going to be a kick up the butt for exchanges. And then also the comment that Caitlin Long made about the fact that, the proof of keys kind of would have helped out in this situation. I know that a few people did withdraw their Bitcoin from Quadriga, but as part of the proof of keys movement, and they have been saved by that. But I think this is, the interesting laws that are happening in Wyoming around, the rehypothecation and the using of those funds to fund other ventures. That, I think it's, as much as people may hate regulation, it's really going to help the community, because it's going to stop people getting stuffed, and it's going to encourage better behavior so that less people lose out. And I think that, some regulation's good, but as much as we'd like to live in a completely free anarchistic world, we've got to, hold the hands of the regulators in order to make crypto progress.
And that is actually the need and the reason for regulation. So many of these crypto exchanges operate as a black box, and we have no idea what's going on inside, say, BTC-E. They could be taking all of the funds and gambling with them on the side to make a 10% return. They could be doing anything with them. As you mentioned, Dan, we had a recent interview with Trace Mayer right here on the World Crypto Network. You guys should check that out, where we talked about Caitlin Long and Wyoming and what they're doing there. And part of the goal of the new law is that if there's anything that can profit from holding your money, that profit has to be returned to you. Right now, there is no such law. So let's say Coinbase gets out ahead on Bitcoin Diamond, for example, and they get everyone in their systems Bitcoin Diamond, and they grab them all and they cash them all and they make a bunch of money. And now they can run for 10 years on their profits from essentially profiting off of holding your money for you. That would be illegal in Wyoming. That's currently not illegal in other places, as well as Trace said that you can rehypothecate legally in New York. So there is going to be a question now whether you want a company in Wyoming or a company in New York or California or wherever it's going to be. That is starting to branch out. So we are seeing some results from those regulations. Moving on to the exit question. Exit question: if QuadrigaQX reopened, would you use them again and deposit your money? In the same vein, if Mt. Gox reopened, would you use them again and pause your money? We'll go Rhett, Creighton, then back to Dan. Go ahead, Rhett.
I would not use Quadriga, but I would actually use Mt. Gox. So I don't know if you've been following, but so there's a dispute, but Brock Pierce claims that he owns Mt. Gox. And I actually think this is one of the most exciting things that I don't have to derail it. Should I derail it, or should we talk about Mt. Gox?
You can derail it. We can talk about it a little, but we do have to put the facts back out there. So we'll see how it goes. But
so I don't know exactly what his plan is going to be, right? But what I'm hopeful for is that Brock Pierce has a lot of Bitcoin, and I'm hoping that his incentives are aligned to that instead of liquidating the 200,000 Bitcoin that Mt. Gox had remaining, that he comes up with some kind of system to distribute that Bitcoin back to all of the creditors, the people who lost their money, in some way such that they want to get back into crypto. And to me, that would be a really huge win for everybody. And so I don't know, I'm speculating, but to me, that would be exciting. And I definitely would use Mt. Gox if it was basically a complete rewrite under completely new management, under completely new rules. Yeah, I would use Mt. Gox. I would never touch Quadriga.
Well, I'm surprised that you would use Mt. Gox, Rhett, but there is an interesting story developing there. It looks less likely that Brock actually owns Mt. Gox than when he had his initial announcement. Carpellis has pushed back on that.
So yeah, I don't.
And Jed has also pushed back on it. So first of all, I'm not sure he owns it. Second of all, if I was advising him, or if I spoke to him, and when I do speak to him, I'm going to tell him he probably shouldn't do it. If you had 200 Bitcoins that aren't damaged in any way by Mt. Gox, you don't have to do this, Brock. I mean, it's a nice thing. On paper, it looks nice. You're helping these people. You're helping maybe the Bitcoin community. Maybe you'll even profit on the end. It could, it works out for everybody. But it does seem like an awful risk, and especially a way to adopt a bunch of legal problems and whatever else might be attached to Mt. Gox that might, even a good Samaritan could be taken down by legal problems.
So let him take the legal risk.
Well, I'm going to, but I mean,
what's the problem?
Jed McCaleb and Mount, what's his name? Magical Tux, they both own Mt. Gox. So even if Brock pitched this idea publicly and said, hey, you guys should just give me Mt. Gox for like a couple of Bitcoin, which they could still do. They could say, well, we didn't agree initially, but we like the idea, so we're going to do it. We don't have any other plans to do with the thing. But right now, I think he's in a whole legal trouble. And I also think just relaunching it, especially like I agree, Red, it would be nice to help those people that lost all their money. But I think when they get their money back, they're going to cash right out. Okay, how could they not?
Another thing to remember, right, is that with the Bitfinex hack, do you remember how they recovered from the Bitfinex hack?
They printed their own debt token. Then they manipulated the system to give the debt token back to their people at a point where they would sell it for less. Then they had to pay back less of their debt. I'm not sure why this hasn't been investigated. Just on its face.
So do you think it would be a good, let's imagine that Mt. Gox reopened and they did something similar. Is that a good thing or a bad thing in your opinion?
Well, it's a complex issue. It's definitely good for Mt. Gox. Bitfinex got to buy back their debt at a lower rate, presuming that there's not eventual regulation and punishment for that. That's a great deal. The same way in Mt. Gox, if you could get these people to take 80%, to take 60%, to take anything less than 100%, whatever you gain is gravy. As far as is it legal? Is Mt. Gox, is Japan going to allow that? All these kind of things. Yes, it's a brilliant new debt-making solution for companies, but I think it's bad for the people that own the debt, bad for the people that buy the debt, bad for anyone else involved. So
the other. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Dan.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to mention about BitGrail. Same scenario where they initially, because I lost on BitGrail, and they were going to replace the Nano with 20% Nano, 20% of a Nano back, and then the 80% was going to be in like BitGrail shares. and providing that the exchange kind of stayed afloat after that and actually did well, which, you know, I think could happen on the back of all the publicity that it did have. I know it had bad publicity, but you know, it still could kind of just about scrape it back. And I think that's the same situation with Gox. I think that there's a potential for Gox to make it because of the historic name. And even though it was bad, it's, you know, people might take the stance that lightning doesn't strike in the same place twice. They'd be absolutely, it'd be lunacy to do an exchange and not think about the security very carefully, and to take that very seriously, be transparent about it. But then again, we are very much used to seeing completely, you know, lunacy-based decisions in crypto. So I don't know. It's yeah, I'll probably use it. Fuck it.
Lightning is a good example, but it's more of a natural system. If I had a human-based system and they ran out with the money the first time, there's a good percentage chance they're going to run out with the money or screw it up randomly the second time. Rhett, any more on this Mt. Gox issue?
No, I think I covered it. That was great, Dan.
All right, and let's go to Dan. Would you put your money back into Quadriga? I'm not sure if we got an answer from Dan on that.
No, not Quadriga. No, definitely not. I think that's proven to be, you know, a complete shit show, really. With and just going back on the fact, you know, that a few people pointed out that, you know, Brian, because it is speculation, it does kind of come across that that it's been they have done like an investigation themselves. It's kind of like saying, you know, well, we're not saying it is, but we've done a load of research and we think this is it. So it is speculation at the moment. But at the end of the day, the anyone can be a couch, you know, an armchair detective. And I'm not saying that Coinbase are armchair detectives, but I saw this as a critique of, I think it was Crypto Medication, someone who was following that, you know, and analyzing the addresses and trying to pull information together based on the Reddit posts, etc. And I think that that's the cool thing about crypto is that the Bitcoin blockchain is completely transparent. You can piece things together. You've got stuff like tools like, I can't remember, is it like Wallet? One of the really cool tools, Wallet, something like, I don't know. It's basically a fork of like Chainalysis, and it's like Wallet Explorer, I think it is actually. And you can literally just see the path of your Bitcoin right from when it was mined to any exchanges it might have gone to. And that's the amazing thing about the blockchain, is that people kind of, and I've been ignorant to it until now, about how transparent the stuff is that you're doing. And you may think that it's just an anonymous address, but as soon as a collective of people come together and say that this anonymous address that you're sending to is actually a Bittrex address or a Silk Road or whatever, that's actually, stuff is a lot more transparent than you kind of see on the surface. So it's always good to use tools like Wasabi, coin mixing. I think Wallet Wasabi's got a great coin mixing tool on there. So I can't remember what it's called now. It's completely escaped me. But yeah, it's always good protecting yourself with kind of fresh addresses, that sort of stuff.
It would be very difficult. CoinJoin. There you go. It would be very difficult to put money back into QuadrigaQX just on the face of things, let alone Brian's investigation. As Dan mentioned, having Coinbase investigate you, it's very unlikely that Brian did this investigation himself. He probably was given it by someone on his staff, very technical people. I imagine they did a good job. It would be very difficult to go back into that exchange. Let's move on to the final topic today. Issue 4. Is Bitcoin maximalism bad? Famous Bitcoiner and former panelist on this very show, Andreas Antonopoulos, is back this week with a new speech claiming that Bitcoin maximalism is bad and that power corrupts, and that if Bitcoin succeeded in the manner described by the maximalists, we would have to build a new Bitcoin to disrupt that. Andreas described his new position at the Ethereum Denver conference, where he also expressed his support for that project as well. Rhett Creighton, is Antonopoulos right? Is Bitcoin maximalism a bad thing?
I could speak about this for a really long time, as you probably know, but I'm 100% in agreement with Andreas Antonopoulos. I guess I don't even know exactly where to start on this issue. But first of all, basically, there are very, very, very few people I could even name that I would even call a Bitcoin maximalist. Like, okay, I don't want to name names, but there's somebody who's very well respected as a Bitcoin maximalist, very well known as representing, let's call it a very exciting piece of Bitcoin technology. And that person, I have emails from that person, telling me that I should be only working on the Stellar network back in 2014 or whatever. And, I know a lot of people that they like to represent themselves as Bitcoin maximalists on Twitter. They've bought other coins. They bought Ethereum. They bought Litecoin. They bought Dogecoin, right? So, I think that what we have is every blockchain, right? There's some kind of tribalism that occurs. And then naturally, as humans, we feel the need to fight against these other tribes, right? And then what is the largest tribe? And the most successful and the biggest one for sure is Bitcoin, right? So if you align yourself as, hey, I'm a champion of this largest tribe, then that's sort of like the strongest team to be on. If you sort of publicly go out there and do that. So I think that's where a lot of this sort of Bitcoin maximalism, rah, 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 has come from. But even though in reality, like that's maybe not even happening, what people are actually doing behind the scenes. Now, as far as talking about it being unhealthy, there's a lot of things. I think there's a lot of myths in Bitcoin. I think there's a myth that Bitcoin itself is this truly decentralized platform, something network that like no one party has any control of. But the reality is that there are leaders and influential people in Bitcoin. And yes, yes, they can be replaced. And if they have bad ideas, we're going to all say, hey, let's kick them out and bring in someone new. But the fact is there are leaders, and there are also we know that there was a critical vulnerability in Bitcoin back in September. So Bitcoin itself, there may be vulnerabilities. It may be possible that it could be brought down by some kind of state level attack, right? Like there's still unknowns, and it's still a very experimental system. But actually, what the epiphany I had a while ago is that crypto itself, the whole crypto ecosystem, is decentralized when you look at it as a whole. So if you were to imagine, let's say some crazy critical vulnerability were to take over Bitcoin, in an extremely, extremely unlikely sense, maybe this won't happen. Maybe this is just crazy, right? But like none of us really know. We've never run this experiment before. And if Bitcoin were to somehow be vulnerable to something, then we have Litecoin as like a backup. And yes, like you could say all day long, well, Litecoin will never win, and you might be right. But if the market is pricing Litecoin at like 2% of a Bitcoin or whatever, right, by market cap, my interpretation of that's like the market saying there's a 98% chance Bitcoin wins, and there's like a 2% chance that Litecoin becomes the new Bitcoin, right? Now, okay, you can scream up and down, that's never going to happen. But what I see as as a trader is I'm like, well, look, the market is saying there's a 2% chance. And maybe in your mind, you don't understand the difference between like 100% chance and a 98% chance, right? And so I think that it makes the community stronger to actually have these other crypto projects. And then the other side of this is that there are actually, I hate to say it, there are smart people working on crypto that's not Bitcoin, okay? So there are good engineers. There are people that are spending hours doing good work on crypto blockchain projects that aren't Bitcoin. And you can do two things. You can either shit on them, right? And then you basically negate all of their hard work, or you can support them and we can all be friends and we can say, like maybe this smart, good engineer in this, one blockchain, like did something useful, we can support them. And then that just grows our industry that much faster. So I guess, yeah, these are just my reasons why I definitely agree with Andreas on this point.
All right, so I want to take apart some of the things that Rhett said. On the trading perspective, it's difficult for me to say this because I've been with Bitcoin a long time and I still think it's number one. But if I had gone with a percentage of my money into Ethereum last time, I would have made more money. A friend of mine was sitting next to me at work, told me to do this, begged me to do this, very politely asked me to do this. I couldn't do it. So from a trading perspective, there may be some value to these altcoins for various reasons. Ethereum going into a different area with the smart contracts. Something else, let's call it car coin, goes into the car area. Maybe it's useful for car people. Phone coin is useful. There's
Denta coin. Don't forget
Denta coin. You can pay your dentist bills. Crypto kitties, whatever it is. There's all these things, and they might be useful. They might be profitable, and their coin might even go up in value. But for me, they're all not as important as Bitcoin. Bitcoin solving the sound money problem, Bitcoin truly being decentralized, not having a creator, not having a person to go to roll back the chain, although it's possible. And like Rhett said, they could put stuff in, we could change to a different repository, the code could move all around. Yes, but right now, I still think Bitcoin has the best chance to succeed at solving the biggest problem. Sound money is the biggest problem, best chance to see it. So I'm with Bitcoin. If you want to solve the problem of like people making IPOs without having to fill out any paperwork, I don't think that's a problem. I think that's a potential greater problem of all the people investing in these unlicensed and unregulated IPOs. I think that there is something good about the stock market. There is something good about some regulators. So I'm willing to keep them in position there. Other people might be saying, no, deregulating the stock market is the most important thing for me, more important than sound money. Other people might be saying crypto kitties is the most important thing. Interactive games, game tokens, options. You have to choose what the most important is to you. So I still think Bitcoin is the most important. Therefore, it is still important to me. So I'm still pretty much on the maximalist thing. I think these other things are interesting, but not as important. And also, just because Andreas doesn't think, Bitcoin maximalism doesn't mean that Bitcoin still doesn't win, that it still doesn't become the world's currency, and that he wouldn't still support that. He's just talking about this extreme example where Bitcoin does become 100%, then Bitcoin becomes corrupt. Then we have to take down Bitcoin like all the other institutions. Although I don't exactly know why Bitcoin would become corrupt because of that. Maybe he's saying the early adopters have all this money, they become corrupt. That is possible, but it still seems like that's going to happen with any of these other systems. There were early adopters to Ethereum, early adopters to Zcoin. It just seems like, are you going to choose the people that have been in charge, or are you going to choose some new people? I'm willing to roll the dice with the new people. Not that that's going to be a guaranteed solution, but I think there's a lot there. I think it's a complex view that Andreas has put out, and I don't think he should just be torn down for this. I think we can learn from this. We can all expand our views, be more open-minded. Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor, is Bitcoin maximalism a bad thing?
Well, at the end of the day, everyone wants to be passionate about stuff, and especially when you've got your money and livelihoods wrapped up in that. So whether that's you're just an investment, or whether of money, or it's an investment of your time, you're developing, you're putting the hours in for code for that. Now, I think that competition's always good, and without competition, people can become complacent. And so I think that having competition and having other different cryptocurrencies that will it says hold on my beer. It says hold on my beer. So I'm just reading the chat. But I hodl Bitcoin as well. Well, not I hodl Bitcoin. I'd like to. So donate some via tipping or some shit. But the competition's good, and I like the fact that they know that there's going to be really some harsh eyes scrutinizing the code from a different currency that I think is going to provide more pressure than it does if everyone's just coding on the same team. And just I'm not going to lie, I've been into shitcoin since 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 day 2 of finding out about Bitcoin, partly because I wanted to contribute to the network. I wasn't able to via mining Bitcoin, even though I tried with different ASICs, and they just lost me money. So I had to go into different things in order to be able to compete. And I ended up mining a lot. My mining farm was Script farm rather than rather than Bitcoin ASICs, because I just had to get rid of them as soon as I was getting them. And there's people like the idea of mining, and they like the idea of doing it at home and not having a giant mining box that's going, some of the videos that I've got of, my poor girlfriend putting up with horrifically loud miners, and just dealing with it, and that's cool. And she just kind of accepted that was me trying to contribute to the kind of new world that I see with Bitcoin. But it's funny that I see a lot of synergies with like Andreas being attacked for his saying that maximalism's bad and that basically the field should be open to shitcoin to a certain extent. And that's the same. It's like how people have gone back on like historic figures like Churchill, for example, and everything that Churchill did was bad. It's like, oh, it's now bad. Everything's bad. It's all bad because Churchill, there was this other thing and I think that's kind of seems to be creeping into crypto a bit. The fact that just because he does like Ethereum as well, or see validity in it or usage in it, people have now kind of said he's a complete fraud, etc. And I just think that's crazy. At the end of the day, an idea it is, in fact, what was it? Someone said, even a stupid question. No, there's never a stupid question. And I think that with innovation, well, no, there's definitely some stupid innovation, but some of it is actually really good and constructive and can be used to better Bitcoin and actually makes Bitcoin look good as well. When you do see this rift of shit coins coming and they're a load of crap, it only makes the case for Bitcoin stronger. And just to add to that, champions, ole, ole, ole. Okay, sorry. So, yeah, so I'm actually like a 50-50. At the end of the day, I'm a Bitcoin maximalist at heart, but I like competition. I like seeing shit coins. I don't like seeing scam coins.
All right, and we'll just have to see how that goes. Moving on to the exit question. Force prediction, pick a coin other than Bitcoin that you either like for a technical reason or you think will go up in value. Rhett Creighton.
Well, right now, I mean, I like Litecoin, I would say, is definitely one of the top coins. It has a lot of volume. I mean, it's always like somewhere in the top 4 or something in volume. I started buying Litecoin actually recently around when it hit around $38. So I'm already doing really well on my Litecoin. I'm up like 25% just from a few weeks ago. And the reason why I bought it actually was, okay, I mean, I can tell you the technical reason. If you've been following Adam Back and Greg Maxwell closely, some of the most influential Bitcoin core developers, they spend a lot of time building a technology called confidential transactions. They're actually basically the authors of a lot of that work. And so that they've said out publicly that they want, at some point, they want more privacy in Bitcoin, and they're going to try to push for responsible ways to include confidential transactions into Bitcoin, which will be really exciting. So now what we see on Twitter, Charlie Lee has been signaling to everybody that he's researching confidential transactions. And, so he put 2 and 2 together, and you're like, okay, well, back when SegWit was sort of, what do you call that? Like experimental technology, and people were scared of it and they didn't know what it would do. Charlie Lee put it into Lightning first, and then there was a lot of excitement, and it increased the value, in Litecoin first, and it increased the value of Litecoin. So I'm predicting that there will be a repeat of confidential transactions, what we saw with SegWit, happen again in Litecoin. So, I love Bitcoin. Not to be clear, 100% Bitcoin's #1. I always keep a percentage of my crypto assets in Bitcoin. That's probably forever. But I am gambling on Litecoin right now.
All right, excellent pick. Dan, the Crypto Raptor.
What was the question again? Sorry.
Name an altcoin that you like. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to give a I'm going to go into a mini bit of detail here because supporting the Bitcoin maximalism. So actually, to be honest, my research has been terrible recently. I've just been really scared to look at Blockfolio, not really keeping up with the news, and scared about everything dropping. But there was a project that I worked for called Commerce Block, which is soon to hit mainnet. And whether we're talking short term or not, the Commerce Block at the moment it's an ERC20 token, but it's going to become a sidechain coin. And actually, I think in terms of the general future, that the landscape, I can see. As we've discussed, that Bitcoin is the most important. It's the most, it's the first one. It's the most important. It's going to become, the world's biggest collectible. I think even if it stops becoming like an actual usage for some obscure reason, it'll become a collectible. It'll be like the most scarce collectible ever because it just keeps on evaporating. And so I see a lot of companies that have got infrastructure that's going to build on Bitcoin becoming successful. And this Commerce Block is going to be using a token that's essentially staked like in Decred. And that allows you to essentially earn tokens of the side chains. So if you've got tokenized assets like, I don't know, whether it's oil or platinum or gold or an art piece or something else that's a commodity, for example, something that you can tokenize, but it isn't right, but perhaps amazing is a use case to directly peg to Bitcoin or whatever, then I can see those kind of networks that are growing, and Bitcoin being the biggest one on top of it. So yeah, if you want to look into that, it's CBT, pretty cool tech. And they wrote a BIP as well, BIP 175. And going on the confidential transactions, their sidechain is actually I think it's a fork of Elements, and they're looking at bringing in confidential transactions into their sidechains as well. So I think that's going to be a big kind of a big, what's the word, push over the next year is putting the confidentiality back into Bitcoin. So yeah, that's my shitcoin thing.
All right. I would agree with Rhett on Litecoin. I saw the same kind of thing happening where Charlie Lee made a big announcement. He's going to put all this technology into it. Everyone else, it doesn't really matter what the technology is. It could be gobbledygook wibbly woobs, but they're going to have new gobbledygook wibbly woobs in Litecoin. So the price is going to go up. So just like Rhett, I watched it go up 38, 42, 45. Now it's at 50, all these kinds of things. And usually I just watch it. But this time, it was in the 42 range, and I was like, well, I'll get me some of that. And again, I'm bad at making the investment decision, bad at how much I should put in, all these kind of things. But there's a little bit more now because of that stupid Litecoin. So I agree with Red on that. Also, I've said before, I'm a fan of Stellar and EOS. Once again, not necessarily because of the projects or the technology, but of their ability to create hype. I've seen more articles about Stellar and IBM. These are each hype articles driving the price up. Of course, Stellar went down. Everything's down right now. But again, if you're looking to enter and think that they'll go up, maybe it's a good time to enter. But still, Bitcoin all the way. But just these are fun projects. Maybe you'll make some money.
I really hope Litecoin goes up because when I finally got my mum, autonomously buying different cryptos, she did buy a load of Litecoin at about $360 or something. So I'm not in her good books.
That's what's so painful right now. You say Litecoin, wow, it's at 40, and what if it went to 80? It still wouldn't help your mom at $300. You're still in the bones there. And I have all the same bags of different this and that. So it's been an up and down. But let's move on towards the end of the show with predictions or a story of the week. Dan, Eve, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week?
Can I have one of each?
Go ahead. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so just story of the week was really quite well. In fact, there's a few real quick ones. I'm just going to really slam them in quickly. So first of all, there was a Bitcoin ATM that was stolen in the Netherlands because they just I don't know, hooked up a ATM machine to like a chain, trying to drag it out, and then thinking they've got the Bitcoins, and obviously they're just dumb as shit.
They didn't have a strong enough chain. You need strong.
They did not
strong enough.
They needed to use yacht chain. Oh yeah.
And it's the Netherlands, you could load it right on a boat there. I thought for sure a canal would be involved.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's the diamond chain as well. So UBS fined for tax fraud, classic. You know, it's every week the banking industry has some form of fine given out for, you know, some sort of nefarious activity, and you know, it's just a daily reminder of how the hypocrisy of, you know, of people from the existing, you know, I call it the existing financial world, but the old school world of finance, and how it views Bitcoin and being nefarious, and yet they're so freaking clueless about, you know, the stuff, and ignorant of the stuff that's going on around them. I mean, hell, even the head of the IMF, Christine Lagarde, got done for, she got what, convicted, but no, like, guilty of complicit in some sort of something or other, but not, you know, I don't know, it's all a bit silly. Hopefully there's no libel for that. It was something like that. But anyway, my prediction is going to be Bitcoin hitting 4,200 by the end of that week, at the end of next week. So Friday, this time, 4,200.
All right. He's put it on the board. Rhett, do you have a prediction or a story of the week?
Yeah, I've actually been, I've been going to some Bitcoin conferences and meeting crypto people in Puerto Rico. And some of the most exciting people that I've actually talked to in crypto so far is I actually just met some poker players. And they're really interesting group of people, because first of all, they travel all around the world and they win large sums of money, right, in these events. So imagine they go to like Portugal, they win some big $10 million or whatever in some poker tournament. Now they got to cash out. They don't want euros, right, to come back to the US. So all these poker players, they're cashing out in Bitcoin, right? So on top of that, the winners are extremely intelligent people. So now you have this group of like world traveling, wealthy, extremely intelligent people who also are very good at handling volatility and risk management, right? And you know, asset management. So right now, so my hero as a portfolio manager, there's a guy named Aaron C. Brown. He went to Harvard. He was a poker player. He bet on sports, and then he was risk manager for a fund that was worth $200 billion. Okay, he's brilliant. He doesn't give a shit about Bitcoin because it's 1/4 the size of the fund that he manages, right? So he's not coming over to Bitcoin yet until Bitcoin gets bigger. That's like how small, that's how small we are right now, right? So, but what we are going to get is poker, on the other hand, is dying out. It's basically solved. And these poker players are not able to make money on that game. Now, a lot of them, they're really good game players. They played Magic the Gathering. They play poker, right? Now they're getting into crypto. They're really smart. And the same way we see this sort of like ground up, you know, lean startup, innovator's dilemma approach, I think these are going to be the future asset managers and the people that are really going to win at investing in crypto.
Well, I, for one, welcome our new poker playing overlords. And it's funny that Rhett would mention that, because I did get a chance to play some poker at Tone Vays' Unconfiscatable conference. I famously played against many professional poker players, including Doug Polk, Phil Lack, and Jennifer Tilley. So check out the World Crypto Network today. We've got a great little, very short interview that I did with Phil Lack and Jennifer Tilley after I got bumped out of the poker tournament. It was a fun time. I agree with Rhett. They do have a large bag of money, the ability handling risk, all that kind of thing seems like a good fit, and also a convenient way to cash out the funds. Just what I've been up to this week. I think I'm almost done moving. We're getting ready to give back the rental house, so we're starting to clean it better than we ever cleaned it when we lived there. You know how it is. So I can't wait to be done with that. I've moved all my stuff from Sacramento to Vegas, so I have my books with me here.
God, Thomas, I have to tell you, I just had to kick out a squatter. It was like the worst thing in the world. It's the worst. I'm so relieved. that my squatter's gone. You didn't have a squatter at least.
No one figured out that the other house has been empty for a little while. We've just been going over there every couple days to clean it. But yeah, that would be awful with a squatter. And of course, I've seen the movie Pacific Heights with Michael Keaton, where he nests and basically infests the house and steals everything. And it's pretty tough to deal with people. But yeah, it's a nightmare to move. I moved at least 1,000 books here into the new house, up the stairs, down the stairs, up the stairs, all that. So I can't wait till that's over. We're trying to get back on a normal schedule here, which means Monday morning Bitcoin talk show. So if you want to call in, ask your questions, get on the air live. We're doing that every Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific time till about 11. Then Wednesday, we've got the Proof of Work interview show. Right now, I've still got a bunch of those in the can from the Unconfiscatable conference. We're going to be putting those out once a week. And then Friday, we're right here with the Bitcoin group. So we're trying to keep up that schedule right here on the World Crypto Network. That's my content anyway. We've also got Max has been producing lots of how-to videos. So check that out. Some of them are pretty technical. And shout out to Ben, BTC Socialist, has been making some great how-to videos about how to make like a little sweet machine that you can pay with Lightning, how to make a little Bitcoin price tracking program, little hardware device, interesting stuff. And he's got a really cool Bitcoin layer, underground layer kind of thing going on. So check that out right here on the World Crypto Network. Be sure to subscribe down below, give us a thumbs up and a share. If you'd like to donate money, we're still raising funds so I can participate in the poker tournament. I did participate in the poker tournament, but I lost all my funds. So if you want to donate some Bitcoin, you can scan the QR code right here. This is Tallycoin. Anyone can use Tallycoin to do fundraising. You just bring your own Bitcoin address and say how much you want to raise at tallyco.in. We've also got the Patreon.
Do you have Lightning set up though? For
No,
your
I haven't turned on Lightning.
Oh, come on.
I have to. Oh yeah, I have to go use that.
Jeez.
What is it? You have to go use the centralized service so that everyone can be decentralized. I'll wait till it's actually decentralized, or we could pretend. Everyone's pretending. Oh, I'm pretending to use Lightning, but really it's OpenNode.com or something. And then everyone's excited about tipping.me. It's just change tip. I'm not impressed. But if you want to donate with Bitcoin, I still accept that. I'll work on taking the Lightning. But again, the Lightning thing, there was a great thing with the Hole Knot guy was like, 20 people sent me Lightning donations, and now I have 20 cents. Thanks a lot, guys. You know, I can deal with the 20 cents. Maybe send me $5, huh? Also, if you want to sign up with credit cards, we've got the Patreon. We're down to 38 patrons supporting us with $219 a month. So obviously, we're not going to break even. If you like the show, donate funds. Find someone richer than yourself. Ask them to donate funds. Spread the link. Do some social media for us, et cetera, because we like doing the shows. But it's very tough during the bear market. So I think that's about it. Rhett, Dan, anything else you guys want to add? I feel like I talked a lot at the end. I'll give you guys a chance. All right, we're all set then. Give us a thumbs up and a share. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.